From ancient Greece to modern groves, the exploitation hidden behind power and prestige. A Baldy's Thoughts, exclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, history has a way of repeating itself, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in shouts. As we marvel at ancient civilizations and admire the institutions that shaped the world, we often overlook the shadows they cast. Picture this: the philosophers of ancient Greece, whose wisdom laid the foundations of Western thought, engaging in practices we'd condemn today. Or the Catholic Church, whose sacred mission to guide the faithful has too often been tainted by scandal. Or the elites who gather in secrecy at places like Bohemian Grove, where whispers of immorality linger like smoke in the trees. Now let's be clear. This is not an attempt to excuse or justify exploitation, past or present. Instead, it's a confrontation with an uncomfortable truth. Power, unchecked, often breeds abuse. And if we're serious about accountability, we need to recognize the patterns that connect the past and the present. The cradle of civilization, a dark side to ancient wisdom. We're taught to revere ancient Greece as the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and reason. Names like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle still echo in classrooms and libraries. But the same culture that championed intellectual brilliance also normalized pederasty, relationships between older men, Erastes, and adolescent boys, Eromenos. They called it mentorship, a noble passing of wisdom from one generation to the next. But beneath the lofty ideals was a clear imbalance of power. These boys, barely stepping into adolescence, were vulnerable to the desires of men who controlled their futures. And yet we've immortalized these figures as paragons of virtue, rarely questioning the moral cost of their greatness. What would we say if such practices were uncovered today? The Catholic Church, a veil of silence. Fast forward to one of the most powerful institutions in history, the Catholic Church. For centuries, it has claimed to be a moral beacon, guiding millions in faith and virtue. But behind the sacred walls of its parishes lies a history of systemic abuse. Young boys entrusted to priests for spiritual care became victims of unspeakable crimes. Instead of justice, the Church responded with secrecy, reassigning accused priests to new parishes, where they continued their predation. The Boston Globe Spotlight investigation in 2002 exposed the magnitude of these abuses, revealing decades of cover-ups. This wasn't the failure of a few individuals, it was an institutional betrayal on a global scale. And yet many of these priests faced little more than a quiet transfer. Their victims, meanwhile, carried the scars for life. Modern groves and secret societies. Now let's step into the shadows of modern power. Every year, some of the world's most influential figures gather at Bohemian Grove, a secluded retreat in California. Presidents, CEOs, and cultural elites come together for what is described as camaraderie and tradition. But what really happens there? Leaked footage and accounts suggest rituals, excess, and whispers of exploitation. The secrecy surrounding these gatherings has fueled speculation, but one thing is clear. When the powerful congregate behind closed doors, accountability is often the last thing on the agenda. This isn't just a modern phenomenon. It's a continuation of the same dynamics we saw in ancient Greece and the Catholic Church. Power protecting itself, often at the expense of the vulnerable. Patterns across time, power and impunity. So what ties all these stories together? From the revered philosophers of Greece to the priests of the Catholic Church and the elites of Bohemian Grove, the thread is power. Unchecked, unchallenged power. These individuals and institutions have used their status to shield themselves from consequences, perpetuating cycles of exploitation. And society has been complicit, choosing to celebrate their achievements while ignoring their darker truths. We vilify a celebrity caught in scandal, but excuse the same behavior in the philosophers who shaped our world. We condemn a single priest while turning a blind eye to an institution's systemic failures. We whisper about secret gatherings of elites, but let their attendees return to their positions of influence unscathed. The double standards of history. Here's the uncomfortable truth. History is full of double standards. We choose what to remember and what to forget. We praise the achievements of ancient Greece while ignoring its exploitation. We honor the Church's role in education and charity while sidestepping its abuses. But we cannot cherry-pick our outrage. Exploitation is exploitation, no matter the era, no matter the perpetrator. A call to accountability. This isn't about tearing down history or demonizing the present. It's about demanding accountability, past, present, and future. It's about recognizing that power, whether held by a philosopher, a priest, or a billionaire, must always be questioned. The ancient Greeks, the Catholic Church, and Bohemian Grove are mirrors reflecting the same lesson. Unchecked power corrupts, but we have the power to change that. By shining a light on these truths, we can demand better for ourselves, for future generations, and for those who have suffered in silence. This is Baldy's Thoughts. If you're tired of being fed lies and half-truths, if you're ready to confront the shadows of power, then hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Let's illuminate the darkness together, because the truth has no expiration date.